10-round load development ladder test on this episode of 6'5 Guys.
This episode of 6'5 Guys is brought to you by Defiance Machine, defying tradition with innovation. Our Bros Rifles, precision on another level. JC Steel Targets, the industry leader in quality AR-500 steel targets.
Welcome to 6'5 Guys. I'm Steve Lawrence.
And I'm Ed Mobley. Steve, load development have been our two most popular videos.
That's right. In fact, a lot of guys interested in load development often ask us, hey, do you guys use optimal charge weight or OCW?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question because, some folks have said, are you saying that this is a replacement for OCW or there's something wrong with OCW? Actually, quite the contrary. We've used OCW.
It's complementary.
Yeah, it's very complementary, and this is just a different method. But, if you choose to use OCW, you can. If you choose to use the methods that Scott Satterlee has promulgated in our videos, you can. And from everything we've seen so far, and from the feedback we received from our audience, the results
are highly correlated.
Absolutely.
You end up
absolutely.
really at the same result at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Now, Scott recently contacted us and he posited a question, which was, what would you guys say if I could get you to that same result, but in 10 rounds?
Well, I mean, we always know Scott's kind of pushing the envelope.
Right.
And I think, my visceral response was like, okay, this is really going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Because typically our method would probably take 40 to 50 rounds,
right? Right.
And so, that was somewhat of a scintillating, proposition on Scott's part. But we packed, we packed up the gear.
And we went over to Scott's house and we sat down for a chat. So guys, take a look.
Okay. And the way it came about was we came up with a cartridge that nobody'd ever run before. So at that point, it's kind of like, where do I start? Not only where do I start, but I want to test all these different powders for it. And then that was kind of the obligation we had was, okay, we got this new cartridge out. Now I got to test all this powder, and people are going to come to me and be like, okay, what powder do I use? What's the load? And I have to be, I'm like, hey, this is try this, so.
And trying to dial it in can be very time consuming. I was at the range the other day. Typically I prepare 5 cartridges with a load, and then go up in 0.2 or 0.3 grain increments. So, if you're doing that over 10 loads, that's a significant amount of time to load those, as well as fire and measure. And
barrel life and bullets and just cost, not just component cost. I mean, what do bullets cost us now? Like 40 cents a piece. So, I mean, the more efficient you can be with, finding a place to start, developing your load, the better off we all are, and the less frustration you have,
So, let's go through the steps.
Okay.
How would a person start with this method?
Well, let's cover the powder and the cartridge real quick. I'm running the 6.5. I call it the Swedemore, but it's the 6.5 Addiction. It's a 6.5 with 55 improved. It's got similar case capacity to the 6.5 284. So when I go to a powder, 4831 or H1000 or something like that, I'll base off of 6.5 284, and then that's usually where I start, and then I usually go up past what the 6.5 284 says in the manual. So that's step one. Is I go to a known source, somebody I know, or the Hodgdon website, and I find my starting point. So I start there.
So in this particular case, I mean, we've got 50 grains and 51 grains, and you're using Reloader 26.
Reloader 26, which is an unknown, I mean, not a whole lot of guys shot.
Your known point that you were starting from was
4831,
shortcut.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's similar burden speed. I think the reloader's the reloader's a little bit slower. So I figured I would be safe starting off at 50.
Okay.
Okay.
50-51, and you were expecting a velocity in the neighborhood of 3,000 feet per second. That's kind of the expectation you have.
Right. The expectation I want to get, if it's going to be a usable powder for me, is going to be 3,000 feet per second on the 140s or more. Mm-hmm. I'm always looking for a little bit more speed with consistency.
Gotcha.
If I can get both, then it's great. If I get one without the other, then it's not worth it.
Okay.
So what I did was we loaded up one round of each, which you're like, man, that's not a test group. I'm like, it's enough.
Because what would we normally do, Steve? We'd load five of each, right?
Yeah. Right, we'd load 5 of each, right? And then you'd go shoot them,
yeah.
and you'd see if they'd shoot a 5-shot group or not, and you'd probably run them over the chronograph.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this rifle isn't that accurate with the chronograph sticking out on the end of it, so I don't really bank too much on what I see. If it's all over the place, then yeah, we've got some issues, and I'll typically go tighten up my bayonet on my chronograph.
Okay.
But what I'm looking for is right now when I'm doing that initial 10 round, I'm just looking for a velocity spot. Pressure and velocity you can almost call them equal for all practical purposes. I can't measure pressure, but I can measure velocity. Pressure equals velocity. Yeah. So in a sense, I'm kind of measuring.
Yeah, the velocity is a result of the pressure.
Of the pressure, yeah. Right. So, and what I'm looking for is a consistent pressure where, I have 2 or 3 charge weights that develop the same speed. I can make an inference that it's probably the same pressure.
Yeah.
Right, and in our experience, and I'll allow you to answer this as far as your own experience, but so far, whether we've done OCW or a number of different methods, the best shooting load, the most accurate load so far, there's been a very high correlation, almost a perfect correlation between the most consistent velocity and the most consistent load. That's been our experience so far. Mm-hmm. What about you? I mean, you do a lot more shooting.
Yeah, same here. And with, I think I've tested 22 different powders, everything from 4350 to H1000, IMR 4461 to IMR 7977, reloader 17 all the way to reloader 26. So I've tested everything in that burn speed rate for this cartridge, and I've found that for every single one of those powders where I found a velocity flat spot or a pressure flat spot, the rifle shot.
So for the benefit of the audience, what we're still seeing is that you can do load development solely based on velocity flat spots.
You can.
I mean, you don't even need a target. I mean, what I do if I'm really stressed for time, I just shoot it off my back porch into a dirt burn.
So not only that, but I mean this group right here represents 2 grains of powder charge difference.
Yeah.
I mean that's you take one bullet hole off. That's about a 1-inch group. Mm-hmm. And with a velocity difference of over 100 feet per second.
Yeah.
So this is kind of my point with the OCW testing is that you're going to be really reading tea leaves now. Optimally, I would have done this at 300 yards. It would have shown 300-400 yards.
So you did make an important point, though. So for folks that are looking at a variety of methods, if you're looking to save time, looking to save barrel life, cost and components, this would be the method that you would want to use.
Yep, absolutely. Or if you've got a 2-hour trip to the range.
Yeah.
I know some guys like that out on the East Coast. I mean, they literally got 2 hours. They're probably going to take more ammo than this, but I mean, this is a good place to start. So what we did was we did 50, 50.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and then I also loaded 51.0, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, and 0.8. And these are the velocities that we had correlated in here: 2960, 2980, 2982, 2975, which is that's kind of what I was looking at right there. So what I did was I loaded up 3 of 50.4, and then I saw another flat spot right in here where it was 40, 45, 41. Mm-hmm. So I loaded up 51.5 right in between there, because this is 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8 really, included in there. I could probably load anywhere in here, but I want to stay away from the high end and the low end of the node.
Yep.
right? So this one, this 50.2, is probably the low end of the node because we
You're
went
looking
from.
for the sweet spot in that flow.
I'm looking for the middle of it.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm loading the middle of it, I can almost load this on a progressive press if I was in a hurry at 51.5, have 0.1 or 0.2 either way, and I'm still going to have crazy low extreme spreads.
Yeah, now for folks that have this question, we actually have received this from viewers, and we say the flat spot we're referring to as the velocity. So if you actually graph these out in, for example, Excel, that flat spot would be you're seeing very little variation in the velocity that you're measured.
Where 0.2 grains doesn't move the velocity needle one way or the other.
Right.
You know?
Right, and again, you shot all of these into that same 1 inch,
right there.
1 inch group. So velocity all the way from 2960 going all the way up to 3040.
All went in the same hole.
All went in the same
I mean,
hole.
except for these three out here, which were the first, which were on the slower end.
Now somebody could look at it and say, well, actually, that kind of disproves your point because you can have these significant velocity variations and they all go in a small group at 100 yards.
Yeah.
But at distance.
No, that you wouldn't.
That's, I mean, it's mathematically, right? I mean, you run that through your ballistic calculator.
Yeah, if you're running 2960 and 3050, you know, and it goes in the same hole here, you know, and if you're not using a chronograph, you wouldn't know.
That's
I mean, you're like, dang, that's a pretty darn good group. I think I'll load that and I'll load it on a progressive and I'll be fine. And then you take it out to 1,000 yards and you're like, wow, that one sailed over the target and that one hit in the dirt right at, you know, you're like, what the heck? And it's a 2-3 foot, you know, vertical target like a IPSC or something, and you're just not going to hit it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to know if you missed it on wind or if you missed it on vertical. You know, it's very hard to tell, man. You run one into a berm and the dust flies out here and stuff and the wind takes it and you're like, man, I just missed that on wind. You missed it on wind and you missed it on vertical.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're fighting both of those, it makes for a long day.
Absolutely.
You know? So,
okay, so after you shoot, you're looking for the flat spot.
Yep.
You've identified your flat spots, and you decided to come up and create some additional loads at 50.4 and 51.5. What did you find at that point?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, you guys actually saw the chronograph data. I don't know if you got a picture of it on but anyway, at 50.4, I got 2961, 2962, 2963, and like 2961. So I mean, it was an extreme spread of 2.
Right.
You know, so that's going to shoot. You know.
Yeah.
The group wasn't great, but again, we were shooting into some bad light. I had to.
What you were trying to do is prove to yourself that was a flat spot.
That was a flat spot. Yeah,
Okay.
and yeah, it was a flat spot. You know, I mean, I could probably load that on a progressive and have single-digit extreme spread. And then I was like, well, that is a pretty groovy speed for that cartridge. I mean, I've always seen that as an accuracy node, but I know there's another accuracy node higher up and still not pressured out.
Okay.
So. And if I have the choice between something that's super duper accurate and a extreme spread of 2, but it's slow, I'll take the faster one that's shoots a little looser, because again, velocity equals accuracy at distance.
But it's, I mean, what you consider loose is what, an ES of 5? I mean, most
and there's Theo 5.
I mean, most people in their wildest fantasies would be happy to get an ES of 5.
Right. Okay. But the point is if Scott was shooting that rifle and that bullet at 2980 or 2960. And Scott was shooting that same rifle and same bullet at 3055, 100 feet per second faster.
Oh, that's a huge advantage.
Scott shooting this is going to beat this Scott every single day of the week.
Right.
This is a statistical advantage.
Right, that's a mathematical fact.
Yeah. So, and then, this one, we go back into it. We had 51, 51.2468, and I decided to load it right in the middle there, this kind of was strange. It went up in speed. It was 15 feet per second faster.
Yeah.
But I got an extreme spread of 5. So I think I had a 3055, 3056, 57, and then a 3060. But I'll be honest, full disclosure, I actually loaded those a couple days ago because I knew we were going to do this. So, I mean, it could have been anything but, a 10 foot per second change.
Okay.
Could have been anything.
Yep. So now once you've kind of proven to yourself, hey, this looks like it's the best load. Is there any additional testing, or what would you recommend after that?
What I'm going to do after that is I'm going to load up 5 more. I'm going to take the chronograph off of it, and I'm going to shoot it. And I'm going to be very disciplined over the shots and see how it groups. And if it doesn't group well, what I'll do is I'll start messing with the load length a little bit. Some bullets like to be jumped. I've found that like the VLDs, you guys remember we were talking about those VLDs, and they either need to be into the lands or you need to jump them like a mile. I mean, you have to get a running start, get them a thou, get them like a 1/10 of an inch off the lands, and then they shoot,
And in this case, these were what, 20 thou off, or?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It's the barrel. So the barrel was actually shipped to me from another gun, another rifle. The barrel was spun up for another Defiance action, and it was short notice. Hey, this barrel's burnt out, and it's like I had 2 barrels with him, but he hadn't gotten to him yet. So he took the barrel off of his rifle, sent it to me, and I spun it on there, and that's why I had to head space it different.
Gotcha.
So.
And you mentioned working with different powders in the Swedemore, but are you finding that even with different powders, the accuracy nodes tend to be in the same velocity neighborhood as well?
Same spot, actually. Almost the same exact spot.
Oh, that's interesting.
Optimal barrel time.
Yeah, I mean, again, yeah.
It could be, internal ballistics has got to have something to do with that.
Yeah,
and this is with multiple barrel contours, too. Like, I think this is a marksman contour, and I typically go with the Proof M24 contour, but it turns out the same. I mean, within 10 feet per second, the accuracy nodes are in the same spot with the given cartridge.
Yeah, and just so our audience members understand, I mean, we're not knocking OCW, we're not knocking OBT. It's just that in our experience and our observations, whatever is good from
tend to converge on the same answer.
Yeah, they all tend to converge on the same answer.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat. This is more of the way I looked at it, and we all did OCW because
it works. I mean,
it
works,
the magneto speed didn't come out till 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what you had to do.
Right, and unless you had a big Oler chronograph,
which was $1 million.
Right. I mean, you really had it was a real challenge to get good, accurate, consistent velocities. And then living in the Pacific Northwest, there's maybe 5 days
that you can actually use it.
that you can actually use it.
Yeah, because it is a light-based.
Right. Exactly. So Scott, so as the next step, we look forward to going out to the range.
Yeah, we'll go out tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, so far we've consumed, less than 16, 17 bullets right now?
Yeah, we're on, actually that represents 20 bullets, yep.
Okay, 20 bullets, and we're
going to go out to 1,000 yards tomorrow and just bang it and be like, we're done. Got it.
Excellent.
Okay, folks. So we're going to head to the range, and then we'll come back.
We're here at the range to do our field testing.
So Scott, give the audience a rundown of what you're going to do today.
Okay, so we did our 10-round load development yesterday. What we're going to do, I'm going to confirm velocity and 0, and then we're going to take it to distance and see how it shoots.
And so what are you bringing with you today as far as loads?
I'm bringing the load, the 51.5 load that we said yesterday was going to be the numbers we wanted. Good speed, good accuracy, good consistency, and now we're just going to confirm it. I'll confirm it at 600. So basically speed, out to 600, it's just a function of gravity and velocity. BC doesn't matter that much yet. So I'll confirm that the chronograph is telling me what I'm suspect is the truth. And then we'll take it out further.
And how many rounds are you bringing to the range today?
10.
Okay.
All right,
let's do it.
It's efficient.
It's very efficient. All right.
So Scott, you were on the trigger. Tell the folks a little bit about what it is that you were doing today.
Okay, so basically I took a couple rounds, let it kind of sit out in the sun, ran it over the chronograph, same point. I mean, it was just within a foot per second. I think I got 30.59 instead of 30.60 or something. Took the chronograph off, confirmed that it wasn't lying to me at 680. I got a couple of hits, and then just went out and took it to 1110 and 1380 and made good solid hits right in the middle. So, and really what it comes down to is I've done this process enough now to trust it. I used to agonize over load development. I'd be like, God, is this the one, you know?
Right.
And I shot 30 rounds. I'm going to take that to the next match. That's all you need to do.
30 rounds for a rock solid load. I mean, that's great.
It's efficient.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the great new techniques that, you know, I think for the folks that are kind of advanced in having done workup load, this is an alternative to consider.
Well, no, I mean, I wasn't looking forward to working up the loads for our 308s, but now I'm just going to use your process. But I think also for somebody to use this process, they need to have everything else pretty solid, their hand loading techniques and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So considered a bit of an advanced technique. I think that's fair to say. I mean, a beginning reloader would probably not.
They might try it, but it'll take a long time for them to develop the like you said, the techniques. There's some things that I've done that have really make my reloading efficient as well.
Right.
But again, it's one of those things that, I mean, I used to agonize over it. I used to, you know, I just mess up probably a quarter of my cases when I first started reloading. So, you know, it really is one of those things that as you progress as a reloader, as a shooter, as a rifleman, this is an expedited technique for you.
All right, folks, there you have it. You know, having come out to visit Scott and actually see him put the methodology to the test at the range was quite something.
Yeah, I mean, it really took something that, you know, as I mentioned earlier, was you know, I was a little taken aback, you know, by his proposition. It's like, okay, I really want to see this, but seeing him execute it really, you got me thinking. And while personally I haven't adopted that approach fully, I've started to use elements of that, and so my load development has become a more efficient process.
Yeah, now I would want the audience to make sure they understand that one of the big dependencies for this to work is the shooter's ability to have consistent hand loads.
Absolutely. I mean, if you know, you're feeling good with, like, you know, 20-foot SD, this is not a method for you.
Right.
Again, you know, Scott's a guy that typically achieves SDs in the low single digits. If extreme spreads over 10 feet per second, he's having a bad day. So just, you know, keep that in mind.
Yeah, and this could really work for you guys. Be sure to check out the website. We will have a full write-up with the details to answer many of the questions that you may have.
Folks, remember, life's an adventure.
Stay on target.